We're going to talk about the Islanders and their destiny for the mushy middle. Apparently.
Yeah, it's coming. So The Athletic, who notoriously loves the New York Islanders, had an article that came out, and the name of the article is Why These 8 Teams Are in Danger of Being Stuck in the Mushy Middle. The cover photo or the feature image for the article is Matt Barzal and Alex Ovechkin. So the Islanders and the Capitals, which, once again, 2 teams that feel like they are destined for that, at least probably to the average watcher. But anyway, it goes, there's a little intro and then it goes, without further ado, let's dive in. First team, New York Islanders. Bam. Like it just feels like right in your face. The joke that the Islanders are mushy middle. What was your thoughts on that?
Oh, dude, it got me all kinds of mad. I can't fault the writer for immediately thinking about the Islanders, about the mushy middle, because I get it. Even when we talk about it, we're saying they're going to be probably a bubble team. Maybe they do well because the division isn't that great, and they bank a few points on some weaker opponents like Columbus, sadly, Philadelphia, obviously, and they bank some points there, and maybe they end up third. Maybe they squeak in third. So I get it if you're saying just this year, the Islanders are going to be probably one of those mushy middle teams this year. But that's not what the article is about. It's about being stuck for multiple seasons in that mushy middle. And there's a few things. I've got at least 3 bones to pick with this specific article. And maybe not the writer themselves, because it's really hard to write about 32 teams in the NHL. There's no way he or anyone knows everything about 32 teams in the NHL. That's just not possible. So when they write articles like this, I get it. It's hard to have an appropriate take compared to someone like us and those listening at home who follow one specific team almost, to a fault. I get it.
Yeah.
The first problem I have with this is the aging core narrative BS that is thrown around with the New York Islanders. I hate that so goddamn much.
So the Islanders do have some older players on this roster and some guys in their 30s. We talked about, it might have been on the last episode, but we recently discussed how Semyon Varlamov's age kind of at 36 brings that number up. Mm-hmm. But the Islanders core of Matthew Barzal, Bo Horvat, Ilya Sorokin, and then on the defense with Dobson and obviously, Romanov, thank you. They're all in their 20s.
Yep.
And there's some other guy like Brock Nelson's 32, 33 now. So he's maybe in limbo because of his contract thing too. But the defenseman outside of Scott Mayfield, who signed forever, like that one's annoying. Pelech and Pulock aren't coming off of great years, but also like they're 30, 31. It's not like they're 35. I don't, they skew older. I get that, but I think it's a little dramatized from where it was maybe a couple years ago.
Exactly. The Islanders, based off of their current roster, which does include obviously Semyon Varlamov, who's 36 years old. Their average age is 28.65. This is per Elite Prospects, and I looked at the roster. It makes sense. It's not like Cap Wages, who still has Rustin Ishikov on the roster, who is very much playing in the KHL. 3 points in 3 games for Rustin right now.
Yes.
Lulz. Anyways, the Islanders have the 8th oldest team in the NHL. There are 7 teams older than them. But we have to stop looking at this as some sort of barometer for basically being either in a nursing home or just out of daycare. Because while the Islanders are the 8th oldest team, there's only one full year on average separating them from Florida, who are the 24th oldest. Like, what 1 year? If Semyon Varlamov was 30 years old instead of 36, which is still old for the NHL, the Islanders would be the 13th oldest team in the league, right in the middle. As old, and I'm using air quotes here, as Colorado. What are we doing in terms of like, they're old, they're aging core? Ridiculous.
It's just because they're not in there. Like, I don't know how many really great teams there are that have like super young cores and are ready to compete. Like it's rare, right? Like Florida, who you just mentioned, they obviously just won. they got to be an outlier. No, I would think most of them are somewhere towards the middle.
Yep, absolutely. What do you think about Detroit? What are your feelings on Detroit vis-a-vis their age? How would you define Detroit age-wise?
I think most would assume that they are a young up-and-coming team. I think that's the assumption, right?
They're older on average than the Islanders.
That's not the narrative. That's not the narrative, though. But
I know. I thought the same thing as you. Like, definitely younger team. Definitely. No. God, no. They're also in this mushy middle piece. And rightfully so. But there's no mention of how old they are. Not one. And maybe you can say, well, they're important players like Moritz Seider or Lucas Raymond aren't necessarily old. Okay, but nor are, as you mentioned earlier, Bo Horvat, Matthew Barzal, and Noah Dobson. That would be our core as well, and that's not old either. But for some reason, because our GM is a bajillion years old, we are now a bajillion years old, and we will never shake that until we have a new GM. That's not any sort of rationale to get rid of Lou. It's just that's when the stigma might change with the Islanders.
Yeah,
sadly.
yeah, I agree with that. I think it would be when they make a change. It don't. That's a really really good point on you, is because people are gonna look and go, Lou Lamoriello, he's a fossil, and like, yeah, he's older, and I get that, and a lot of people want to move on. I totally understand it. This is not a Matt saying like Lou has been great the last couple of years, but like I think it does have a lot to do with his age and some 2021 and 2 narratives for this team.
If you like that, make sure to subscribe to Up the Turnpike on Patreon for more exclusive New York Islanders content.